and I don't understand how you got 83% of the land surveys that wants regulations other than the existing one. I don't know where that number came from, but there's only about 38, 39 cabins in section 5. Now, how you got 83% of them people to say that they don't want existing regulations? There's 4 Trout Unlimited people below my house. All 4 of them signed that petition of Mr. Minotti, and all 4 are signing my petition, which says stay with the current regulation. And if you question that, why don't you ask the people that stand up here what they'd like to have?
Well, I'm sure we'll get to that before we're done. It's not often I'm told I'm wrong at the very first question. But it should happen. We'd be happy to take your list now if you want to get more and send it all at one time. We'll be happy to take that one, Kevin.
It's coming to you.
Excuse me?
It will be coming to you.
Okay, so you can send it all at once.
A couple more hints?
Sure, you got probably about half a minute.
Let's see, how come, why did the Fish Commission want to divide section 5 and add a portion to section 6? When's the last time you changed the sections in Penn Street?
It's been a long time, and the reason we sectioned it out so that the lower piece where we collected lower numbers of wild fish could still get stocked, so that lower 0.8 miles along Douglas Grove Lane would not be designated as Class A, so that piece would still be stocked moving forward, and it would just simply be added to section 6, for the way that then we would manage that section.
Well, why didn't you leave Jockey Jolly's Lane like it was? What made you change it? The same water flows through it another 500 yards downstream.
So upstream of there is where we documented high densities of wild trout. So that's why we drew the line above Jolly's Grove Lane, so that from that point down, that section will still be managed with catchable trout moving forward.
When was the last survey done?
I presented that during the presentation.
You mean in 77?
1977 was the last survey.
And so from 77 to 2017, you did one survey and decided to change regulations of the stream based on one survey?
We have 86,000 miles of streams in Pennsylvania.
I don't care about that. I'm
It
only
takes
caring about
many years to do a circuit around all the streams.
I can't help what
So
other
the
people
answer is yes, one survey, but
one
instead,
survey, and you decided to change the section of the
Correct.
street?
and the good news is, since it won't kick in until 2019,
Oh, that's great.
we can go
Unfortunately,
back in 2018, we can go back and do a cursory survey, not as big as we did, and you're welcome to go along with us, and
I was on one.
we'll show you the fish that we caught. Did you see trout?
You went up to where your building is up above Cherry Run.
Okay.
Shot it and got one eel up, and I think there was 2 trout came up with it right in front of that building. You know, and if everything is as good as you say
We'll
in
be happy
section
to
1
take you.
through 4,
We'll be happy to take you out in 2018 and do a section again.
take all these people with you.
Well, we'd like to take you too.
I was out.
You're here,
before.
maybe they are here, but we'd be happy to take you out. We don't hide what we do, and we
Well, you
welcome
should
the
be.
public
It was
along.
a quiet survey. You even admitted that.
I'll be happy to go with
Quiet
you.
survey. I said
That's
it
all I can
was a
offer.
secret survey.
It's time to move on and ask another.
Okay, you want another one?
No, from another gentleman, please.
That's it? Okay.
Yep, thank you.
I have a little trouble understanding you telling me that all those trout that you guys shot are native. I have a little problem with that because anytime I caught a trout that looked that color, I always considered it a holdover. And you yourself said that these trout repair themselves. So you can't tell wild from thing. It's impossible unless you have the DNA from it or something. But you're telling me that every trout that you caught was a native?
So,
All those big ones.
32 years of
6
experience,
months down the road.
32 years of
fish look like
experience.
that.
15 or 20 years of experience. We don't rule in fish that are questionable. If they've got buggered up fins, or their fins don't look right, or something doesn't look right about them, we don't need to count them. There's enough wild fish there that have all fins. They have their adipose fins, their tails look good. Anybody who's caught both wild trout and stock trout in enough places pretty much can look at them and get an idea. It's not based on the color as much as as much as the morphology.
Why-
Even a holdover will still have some sort of thin erosion if it's spent a decent part of its life in a hatchery. It's the raceway, it's the thin wear that they get. And,
Well,
you know, we know where they came
more
from.
trout.
They started with the stockings, obviously. The brown trout were stocked at some point, and many times over the years, and somewhere of that genetic stock, enough fish survive, and then you've got like a strain or a stock in a stream that
Well, that's what I'm
reproduces.
trying to say.
Right, and-
They were stock fish.
And how we know that
There might
is,
be a few breeding up in White River or something like that,
Right.
cold streams.
well, how we know that is if you look
I
at
know
that
that all
graph.
these gentlemen in here
Yeah.
probably resort to catch and release. It's the guys that, when you stock, the people that come in, they need something to catch and take home to eat.
Right,
They
so-
don't catch those trout.
I want to show you this graphic so I can point out one of the clues. So one of the clues, anybody know what the minimum length of a trout is in Pennsylvania we're allowed to eat?
7 inches.
When do they typically come out of our hatchery? How long are they?
I got them out at an inch and a half.
Excellent. How about the average fish? 9.5 to 11.5 inches, somewhere in there, okay? So these fish didn't come out of a hatchery. That's how we know there's wild fish in Penns Creek. Not just looking at fin wear or no fin wear on big fish. These fish had to come from somewhere. That's where they catch. Why isn't this number bigger? Because the gear we're using, fish of this size are more susceptible when you're in there electrofishing with the methods we use. So the catchability of bigger fish are there. There's a lot more fish of small sizes than we can catch when we're doing an adult survey. Because the gear we're using and the boat we're using is designed to catch the adults, the fish that we're most interested in terms of regulations and length limits.
The holdover.
That's how we know there's reproduction in the creek.
The
Without even
holdover
looking at
fish you're
fin wear.
talking about, right?
Excuse me?
You're talking about the holdover fish.
No.
The
Well,
ones that
what I'm
guys
telling
catch
you is-
7 times a release.
What I'm telling you is that we have, there's your proof that there's natural reproduction. And those little fish grow into big fish. And if their fins are clean, and they don't have any obvious signs of fin wear or something like that from a hatchery, then we rule them in and we say it's a wild fish. If they don't, you can look at our data sheets. It says hatchery fish, the guys will put a mark, so we don't count them.
I can look at the fish that come off the end of my line. I never see them that small. Very seldom we catch a little fish,
But they're there.
but we catch the bigger ones because everybody's putting them back and they're staying there.
So that's the best explanation I can give you.
I don't think they're.
Sir?
I have a place in Fishman Run section.
The catch and release section?
When there's some stuff. Opportunity to provide for young people, high strength, testimony from people like myself, or old timers. Younger people are more interested in sport fishing than our generation was. Over the years, I see a greater influx of lure fishermen in the catch and release section. Younger people, and at one time, 20 years ago, it was all fly fishing. Now that we're seeing more and more people lure fishing and spinning lines, and they're sportsmen. They release the fish as carefully as the fly fishing, and many times they get again back in the water fast. The tide is turning, the younger generation, but they're not. Younger people are interested in quality fishing and sport fishing. We have the section over and down, just put the numbers down. Because I'm sure pool, my place is the most fish pool on the creek. First pool in that section. And there's very few days of the year, but even the days where people fishing, it's really utilized. So really, I'm going to put a lot of feelings in, but the opportunities for young people is going in this direction.
Thank you very much. Somebody from this side of the room. We saw you already. You can go at the end. Let's get everybody, get their first bite of the apple, and if we have time, we'll come back to you. How about this gentleman? We'll come back to you, sir.
Just a quick question. Will Jason's presentation be available online?
Absolutely.
Shared?
Yep.
Thank you.
Just go on to,
Andy.
we'll be on your line tomorrow.
Andy, the folks in the back here can't hear the question.
Okay, the question was, thanks Dan. The question was, will this presentation be online? The answer is yes. Rather than give you a bunch of instructions on how to find it, go to fishandboat.com, type in trout. You'll be able to find it from there. Type in Penn Creek, you'll be able to find it from there. We'll make sure it's linked in such a way you can get to it. This gentleman.
You're saying that trout that wouldn't be stocked in, that would normally be stocked in section 5 would be stocked below the Glen Iron Bridge. But that is designated as a warm water fishery. Basically suited for bass fishing. And before, you wouldn't stock below the Glen Iron Bridge because of that. Now we're putting trout in there that should have gone into a cold water section to satisfy people that say we want stocked trout, but they're really not going into a good area for trout. It's a warm water fishery.
The section below Glen Iron certainly stays cold plenty long enough for us to put trout in spring and provide for that spring recreational fishery. Really, that section below Glen Iron really isn't any different above
Wouldn't
the
be better
Glen
to put them
Iron.
where they're going to be year-round.
So the reason we put them in areas where we don't have strong wild trout populations is to further increase the angling opportunities in sections that can't support high densities of wild trout. So we have wild trout that go down at least to Glen Iron, probably below. But
Not in June, July, and August, you know,
So-
or September.
our best use of our hatchery trout are in sections that have somewhat marginal conditions that can't support high numbers of wild trout. So that particular setting is actually the type of situation where we try to use our hatchery trout to further extend angling opportunities beyond areas that support high numbers of
Why
trout.
don't you put them where people can enjoy them year-round and have carryover, rather than sacrificing this number of trout for catch and keep?
So this notion of fish carrying over in any appreciable numbers seems to come up, and we can certainly say that very, very few fish survive, stocked trout survive from one year to the next. And why is that? Because we try to figure this out too sometimes when we're using fingerlings to try to create a fishery in places. And there's several reasons. The first is being it's a highly domesticated strain of fish. So fish that are in a hatchery environment have been selected over generations to be able to be disease tolerant, to be able to survive in high densities, to grow fast. These aren't necessarily the traits that you can put a fish out into a wild environment, and for that same fish that does really well in a hatchery environment to go out there and be able to survive from one year to the next in a wild environment. And I can certainly tell you, in our streams, there's a lot of our stocked trout streams in the state where we've literally stocked over 1 million trout into, and there's next to no wild trout into them. And the reason that is because they don't survive well. The mortality is very high. That's not just in Pennsylvania. If you look at any of the studies nationwide, stocked trout typically are surviving for around 30 to 60 days. Beyond that, their mortality really drops off to the point that when we're conducting our fishery surveys in the summertime, we see very few stocked trout, very few stocked trout still there. So I hope that helps to answer your
But
question.
you're saying then, you don't expect any of those stocked trout below the Glen Iron Bridge to survive?
We're not expecting them to survive anywhere we stock, whether it's cold or warm.
Have you done a survey below?
One of the gentlemen in the back.
Is the purpose of your stocking program put and take, the objective of the fish that you stock is for somebody to catch?
Question.
The question is the purpose of our stocking program to put and take for somebody to catch? Absolutely. We have wild trout that we manage for. We have put and take, which is the hatchery truck shows up with an adult-sized fish. They're put in. We expect that the anglers are going to take them out. They're not being put in to create a wild fishery or holdover fishery. We have put grow and take, which Jason mentioned are the fingerlings. And we're able to use them in some water successfully. The Yautagini River in western Pennsylvania is one of those where that kind of works pretty well. And those fish are put in as fingerlings. They grow, and then people can take them if they want, or they can release them. So when you have stocked trout, you're generally, if you look at a lot of the streams we put them in, you're generally borrowing a stream that's normally a bass stream or transitional between cold enough for wild trout and warm enough for bass. And we really, the sweet spot is those transitional streams in between. because they'll support hatchery trout maybe into June. And a year like last year, we had fish being caught in July in Bald Eagle Creek over where I live. But in a normal year, those fish start to make decisions about where they're going to go somewhere around mid-June. And if you know about our delayed harvest areas and why those change on June 15th, we open them up for harvest. They're not open until June 15th because most of them are transitional, borrowed, warm water, transitional streams. And you get in, we ask the anglers to go in and take them because they're not going to carry around till the next year. You might as well use the fish rather than let them die and go to waste. So let's take a question from
Can I follow that up
somewhere on the right
with
side.
one more
Go
quick
ahead.
question. If, without regulation in the wild trout area, is that fishery sustainable?
What kind of regulation?
If there's no slot limit or,
Okay, if nothing changes, because it's Class A, it would be unstocked. It would be statewide regulations, that's 5 per day, 7-inch length, first day of trout season to Labor Day. That's what the regulation, that's our general statewide reg. Yes, they would still probably be at or close to Class A. But you're probably not going to see an abundance or allow them to grow and achieve the full potential of the stream. People will still fish them. Less people will fish it because a certain group of folks will go where those stock trout are almost exclusively. But people will still go up there and fish. But if you want to allow that wild trout fishery to be all that it can be, some sort of regulation that reduces the overall harvest and allows them to get larger would be what you'd want to try. This gentleman in the back.
So what you just said, as far as it is sustainable the way it is, and the catch and release area above Section 5, so Section 4, has a lot bigger fish in it, correct?
Yes.
So if Section 5 is sustainable with the regular regulation, do you think access to Section 4 has any play in why there's so many big fish up there?
It may. Certainly, the things that provide pressure on a fishery is access. It's the method of harvest, the method of gear, the type of things that are used. It's the quality of the water. It's the habitat. I was with the crew when they were doing the sampling down in Section 5, and you look at those pools and you know they can hold big fish. They're narrow. There's places where they're funneled down. They're in the shade of the mountain. There's good depth. Anytime you got water deeper than 4 feet or so, as long as you have the temperatures, that's a good place to hide pretty good sized fish. So that habitat is there. A lot of what drives our wild trout fisheries, especially the headwater streams with brook trout, is habitat more than it is fishing pressure. We know because we did studies in the north central part of the state, and we did controlled test studies, and we showed that, except in 1 or 2 examples, it was about the habitat more than it's about fishing pressure. However, it depends on what you're wanting to harvest, what you're wanting to manage for, what you want to allow a stream to achieve its full potential. Some of these options will allow a greater potential to be achieved. Somebody over on this side, we're kind of late over here on the bride side. Yes, sir.
We all know, probably everybody here is concerned about Penns Creek, and we realize that Penns Creek is a fantastic trout stream, one of the best in the state, one of the top 100 in the country. And with that, the present conditions that we have, 99% of the landowners on Penns Creek allow fishing on their property. My biggest concern when Mr. Clogger presents a petition with an X number of people, a significant portion, I don't know how many, he doesn't maybe have that, of those on the petition have signed that the petition are landowners. And my concern is, do you want to, yes, your statistics show that the wild trout will be bigger and this and that, but do you want to jeopardize the access to Penns Creek by changing the conditions that are now? What good is a stream if you can't fish it?
Did everybody hear that question? Was that? Okay. So we don't want to jeopardize that. That's why we did our best to survey all the landowners we could reach, because we want to know their opinion. If you know that part of Penns Creek, it's state land on one side, which is like an incline about like my arm, and then on the side you can actually walk in is the private accesses. When you go into some of those accesses, you see signs that say, walk in only, catch and release preferred, or catch and release. Some people have decided on their own that they'll be happy to let people in, but they're in favor of catch and release now. So we're not interested in shutting it off with a regulation that would be exclusive if people aren't in favor of it. What we'll do with this gentleman's list, when he provides it to us, we'll compare that with the letter responses that we got, and we'll see how it shakes out with people who told us already they were in favor of this or that. And if there's a disconnect between them, we'll reach out to those people and find out why they said this at this time, but they're saying something different at this time. I mean, I think that's a fair way to evaluate people that we've contacted. And the purpose of being here tonight is to hear those concerns. The purpose of going and speaking to landowners or contacting the best we can is to hear those concerns. So we're with you. We don't want to do something that causes people to close land to fishing. We're not in the not letting people fish business. We're in the let people fish, create opportunities for people to fish business of different kinds of fish, but we're not interested in trying to help close land.
I fished Penn's Creek over 50 years. Mr. Lewis, has said he's been there, we've been there longer. But anyone here will not doubt the increase of, and that's a question, whether they're carryover or wild trout. I think it's a combination of both. The fishing is better on Penn's Creek than it was 50 years ago. Because back then, there was more of a dependence on stock trout than there are now. Let's face it, we all know that they don't stock what they used to.
And they is us, by the way.
Yes.
Somebody in the back, this gentleman.
This gentleman behind me and myself are both landowners. We got no survey.
Well, we will make sure you get one tonight.
And the stocking below, you talk about accessibility, the stocking below Glen Iron, how accessible is that to fishermen? They're going to stock below Glen Iron.
One
There's a
second.
tremendous amount of private
I'm
property.
going to ask him, what's the accessibility and what would be the new stop section?
The fishermen can get in and fish.
So, it'll be, we're looking at about 4.3 miles from the State Route 235 bridge in Glen Iron down to where Creek Road crosses a stream near the intersection of Libby Road.
Yeah, we know that.
So-
Where are the accesses to get into the creek?
It's private property.
Yeah, so there's various places. We scouted those out, myself and the Waterways Conservation Officer, that would be acceptable for stocking. So there are public access points in various locations throughout that length. Some of it, there is posting through that section, and those sections would be avoided, but certainly there's some nice reaches with public access.
Well, I have a cabin up Jolly Grove, and we leave that accessible to the public. All year round, they can walk up, whatever. So I think it'd be much harder to get accessibility below Glen Iron than it will the way it is right now up Jolly Grove.
So again, just to be clear, that the adjustments that are being discussed, so we're not proposing to change the reach along Jolly Grove where your cabin is located. So that will remain the same as it is. And the reason it did a landowner letter is because those were sent to the landowners upstream of Jolly Grove Lane where the regulation change is being considered. So just wanted to clarify that.
This gentleman way in the back with the cap on.
What are the chances of a Class A stretching? Catch and release being opened up after a few years of catch and release back to statewide regulation. Is that ever something that's considered? After like maybe 4, 5, 6 years of catch and release being opened back up to statewide regulation?
So the question was, is it possible for a stream to be managed under special regulations such as catch and release and then revert back to like statewide regulations at some point in the future? And certainly that's an option. We can, what we want to do is manage the streams to the best we can. So through increased monitoring in the future, if we see that there's a change in the wild trout population, that's seems to be, that would indicate that the current regulation, whatever that may be, the time, let's say catch and release, is not best meeting the needs, then certainly we would look to make an adjustment, whether that be statewide regs or something else. So it is that option it does exist, but in most cases, when we place the water under special regulations, they've generally improved over time.
This gentleman here in Ballcap.
I apologize if Jason said, what was the time frame that you did the survey last year? What month?
We sampled in June of 2017.
Okay. So if the idea of putting fish in and then the regs end around June in some marginal streams so you can take them, do you have data like that, except not on the wild trout, but on holdovers and stockfish that are still there in June, July, August? I mean, you're saying that this section of stream is the same as down below. It's not. It has so many more wild fish. So what about the data on the stockfish that are still there in mid-June? Do you have data on those?
Yes, so we separate out the hatchery and wild fish as we've discussed, and certainly we do keep track of that. I can tell you it's a small percentage of the stockfish that are there even in June as compared to the 2,000, for example, that the fishing boat would have put in April or May. So it's a very small percentage that are still there even in mid-June.
Right, but if there's 45 hectare of wild fish, how many, or kilograms per hectare of wild fish, how many kilograms per hectare of stockfish are still there for people to catch?
No, I mean, offhand, I'd say it's well under 10 kilograms.
How many rounds, did you say not many rainbows?
It would be even less. I think we had a lot more stock rainbows, as I recall, than stock brown trout.
Yes, sir.
What are the rules for private parties that are not exempt from the last time?
The gentleman asked, what are the rules for private parties stocking Class A waters? The rules are, you're not allowed to do it. Once the Fish and Boat Commission determines that a wild trout stream is Class A, the regulations say there will be no stocking in those waters unless Fish and Boat Commission has made an exception to that, which we have done for a couple streams we did that. They had specific criteria. That's something that we did. But one of the reasons we don't want to see that happen is once it's being managed as a wild trout fishery and it's not good, we don't want diseases coming in. We don't know where the fish are from. There's a lot of reasons why we would not prefer that to happen. Somebody, oh, I'm sorry.
Your statistics show that over 40 years from the time you did your initial stocking or your survey in 77 to 2017 shows that the numbers improved and everything was good as it is right now. What's the benefit to the Fish Commission for making it Class A? Because you hear everybody else here saying, look, this thing's doing well, sportsmen are doing their part, they're catching and releasing, the landowners are letting people walk in. So why reclassify if all your numbers are going up?
So our philosophy of the agency, I think Mr. Harway said it, is resource first. And back in the 1980s, when we began Operation Future, when we get into scientific management of trout fisheries, the way that we do it now and the criteria that we use, we recognized that there was a responsibility and an opportunity to protect the best wild trout fisheries and make them better. And as Jason pointed out, the only 2% of the 86,000 miles of streams, and there are 16,000 miles of streams in Pennsylvania right now that have wild trout. Only 2% of those 16,000 miles of wild trout water make Class A. So they're the best of the best. But when you have stocking, you have other pressures on them, they don't reach their full potential. So we're trying to manage a wild trout fishery to make it the best it can be and not spend money stocking fish there, which can cause problems for wild trout and also really is a waste of your money. It's not a good use of your money for a species and a fish that is specifically designed to be put in, caught, and taken out, if you want to take it out. So it's the opportunity to make a good stream better and make a wild trout stream the best it can be. And that's a philosophy the agency has adopted since the 1980s.
But if you go on that 40 years and you have all these people catching and releasing, you can't tell me that they're all wild trout. I mean, that 40 years of the sportsmen that fish that section doing their part has to also play into you now changing it and saying, we don't think you guys did a good enough job, we're gonna do it for you. Right or wrong? I mean,
Yeah, I'm not sure I follow.
Well, I mean, I understand you're trying to protect that valuable resource, but the sportsmen have been doing it for the last 30 years. And now, when you get people that are gonna say, okay, I'm a landowner there, and you say, well, you wanna make the catch and release, you have a footnote there that says, oh yeah, by the way, it's no longer gonna get stocked either. Because some of these landowners have no clue that you're not gonna be putting any fish in there. Catch and release to them is what they've been telling people to do for all these years. And now you say, well, you know, we all filled out the survey and you had 3 options, but it was all because you are gonna reclassify it as Class A. There was no like, well, do you think we should classify it as Class A, or do you think we should not classify it as Class A?
So
that's, I hope that when you send the surveys, I'm not a landowner, but I have a cabin within walking distance, that somewhere you put there that it says, okay.
Can't hear his comments back there.
So I'll summarize, correct me if I'm wrong. The basic question is it clear to the people that you asked, landowners, that it's catch and release? People have been doing catch and release fishing on some of these areas for a long time. Did it make it clear that, you know, if it's Class A, it's not going to be stocked? You know, these people are doing catch and release when they're wild trout and stock trout. Close? Okay. So with the regulations, with how we manage wild trout, when it becomes Class A, by our regulation, it is no longer stocked. So no matter what else happens, it will not be stocked in 2019 because it's Class A. What we're here to discuss is what other options might be suitable for a stream that's going to be managed for wild trout. So those 3 options were catch and release all tackle, or catch and release artificial lures only, flies, spinners, plugs, whatever. The other one was the harvest slot, which is what goes on up in section 3, where you could keep 2 fish between 7 and 12 inches, but you can't keep fish less than 7, and you can't keep fish larger than 12, but you could use all tackle, so you could use bait, flies, lures, what have you. That's the second option. And the final option is, what often happens in most wild trout waters, if they don't have this type of really unique fishery, is like a little brook trout stream that becomes Class A. It's just managed under statewide regulations, 5 fish per day, and you can fish 7 inches and fish from April, middle part of April to Labor Day. So that's the 3 options that are in play. The option that's not really in play is the fact that once it's identified as a Class A, by policy it does not get stocked anymore. This gentleman in the back, and then I'll take somebody up front.
You said you were going to increase the stocking numbers. How many more trouts are you going to put in section 6 and 7?
Section 6 and 7, I think it'll be bumped up by about 500 trout.
So the way I described this, how this would work, and I think you probably understood it, but the way I described it to some others, is that you've got stocked fish up here. We're going to move those stocked fish down here. You're going to have a section that was stocked that's going to be wild fish with some option that's selected. This is going to be like the upstream section was. You're going to have a net gain in distance or the same distance. A net gain in distance and a net gain in stock fish by 5 million. Are they going to be rainbows? Rainbows. So it'll be rainbow trout. This gentleman up front.
Do you have a comparable biomass for section 3, which is the stock section?
Good question.
Repeat the question, please.
The question is there a comparable biomass for section 3? And Jason, I think, has an answer for that.
So section 3 is further upstream, and that's from Coburn down to Popatty, and that section's been managed as Class A since the mid-90s. The Class A, or excuse me, the biomass of that section, most years it's around 80 to 100 kilograms up there. Some years it's been 150 kilograms up there. And in section 4, the biomass is generally, we see around, section 4 is a catch and release area. Its average is probably right around 80 kilograms, 60 to 80 kilograms, and then some years it's even up over 100 kilograms if it's a catch and release area.
So, just under the right circumstances, do we have habitat that the current section 5 could all become Class A potentially under the right circumstances, conditions, possibilities?
So the question is, under the right habitat circumstances, could the current Section 5 all become Class A? You mean including the part that was sectioned out that's going to continue to be stocked? The lower part? Okay.
The habitat down there is quite good, so I would say, yes, it does have the potential down there. The sample site that we did in that lower 0.8 miles did not meet Class A standards this year, but again, we thought this year was obviously a very conservative sample following the drought of 2016. So at some point, obviously, there's an inflection where to continue further enough downstream that we would expect the wild trout numbers to start petering out. And perhaps we have identified that in, around the upper end of Jolly's Grove, at least for this point in time.
We'll get to you in 1 second, sir.
Sure. I'd just like to say that, you know, what we're talking about tonight is a very special condition. Class A streams don't come along very often. And for us to see Penns Creek evolve to the point where Class A is moving downstream instead of upstream is a pretty special thing. In this case, we think the proposal, we can have best of both worlds. We can continue to have stock trout fishing, but at the same time, we're going to have a section of Class A waters that a lot of people will use as a destination fishery to come in and fish. The Fish and Boat Commission doesn't create Class A streams. The only thing we do is we watch the fish populations as they reproduce and survive, and then we designate streams based upon different management classification systems, and we manage them accordingly. So when Andy said 2% of our streams statewide, 86,000 miles of streams, are Class A. That's not a lot of streams. So you don't realize how special of a stream that you have in your own backyards or your camp yards, like Penns Creek. We don't create them, we just watch them. We have a responsibility under Article 1, Section 27 of the Pennsylvania Constitution. And I swore to take that oath when I took my office to act as trustee for the fish that we all fish for. They're part of the public property. You own them. No, nobody else owns them. Even if they're on private property, the fish that live in the waters on private property are still public property, as well as the water that flows across those lands. So as a result of that, we've got to pay special attention, especially to the streams that are really the jewels of the Commonwealth. And we have to make decisions. Sometimes they're controversial, but we got to make decisions about how to protect those and manage those, not just for us. You know, you look around the room and you don't see many kids in this room. This decision is not just about you and your neighbor. It's about your kids and your grandkids and their kids and their grandkids. If we don't manage these things properly, they're not going to be able to use them the same way we do. So I just like to put it in perspective that, you know, that's really our responsibility to take care of these streams for you and future generations.
I would have liked to clap before he took over. So, thank you, John. I couldn't have said it better myself. This gentleman in the back is waiting patiently.
So in 1977, you did your first survey, only one section. Now you decided to do your other survey. So under the standard regulations, with nobody doing anything, this stream has turned itself into the premier trout stream, is what you're trying to tell us. You haven't regulated it. It's been 5 a day, same regulations, same everything, but yet somehow it's become this great thing that you're trying to save and change. Why are we changing it if it's working? It's working. You just told us it's working. It's getting better all the time. You just said that. So why are we regulating something that's getting better?
So what we've seen in Penns Creek over the years is a pretty substantial improvement, not just in Section 5, but we've also documented quite an improvement over time in Sections 3 and 4, for example, as well. And we've seen really big bumps up in those streams. So, for example, in the mid-90s is when Section 3 was documented as Class A, and that's basically tripled in biomass since the early 90s when we first started sampling that stream. So we've seen a very big improvement in that section. Section 4 is is also probably doubled in biomass or more over time. So I think some of this is the result of improving conditions within the watershed over time. But what we also know with Section 5 is that it's probably not at its full potential. So certainly has it gotten better? Absolutely, and we're certainly excited to see the improvements that have been made there. But we believe through improved management moving forward, they will be able to meet its full potential.
What's the benefit that all these people are gonna gain other than you're going to be able to say this stream has reached its potential? It is now awesome. You just told us it's already pretty awesome.
It's on its way to awesome.
Way awesome, now what? Now what
So-
are all these people
so I guess I would-
calculating their kids can't go down and throw night crawler in to catch a sucker in the spring because they have to have an artificial lure. Their grandson or granddaughter, you talked to, the other fellow talked about saving this for our children. So we're saving it for our children. Look at my grandson wants to go down and throw a night crawler in and catch some horny chubs. He's gonna violate the law. So what is this benefiting us all? Tell us what great thing we're getting out of this.
So
Because it
there's-
sounds to me like we're not getting our children to be able to use it. They can only use it the way you tell them to use it.
So there's three options on the table. Three options, right? There's three. Two of those include the ability to use bait. Two of them. The harvest slot and declaring a Class A and not stocking it. You can still use bait, you can use night crawler, use whatever you want. So two of the three options include that. That's what we're here to talk about. One of the options is catch and release, and you couldn't use bait. Your little kids and your grandchildren couldn't fish. So know that two-thirds of the options include that opportunity. So let's keep that in mind, keep it on the table. I would like, I'm gonna get to a gentleman here in 1 minute that Chris pointed out, but I would like to hear, is there anybody here who fishes for wild trout, who fishes Pence Creek for wild trout, and could speak on what their observations are, what they think about wild trout? And there has to be somebody in here who likes wild trout, besides us.
I'll tell you right here.
This gentleman.
I've been fishing Penn's Creek since about 1970, and the single biggest improvement in that creek occurred when they put in the special regulations, both in the winter area below Pope Patty. It greatly improved all of a sudden, like within 2 or 3 years, the trout population tripled when they put those regulations in there. And then a few years later, it was 1990 something, they put the regulations in the section from Coburn to Pope Patty. I'm telling you, you could catch 7 inches or 10-inch wild brown trout up there. When they put those special regulations, within 3 years, the trout population either tripled or increased 4 or 5-fold. And all of a sudden, you're catching 14, 15, 16-inch trout up there. And these greatly increased trout populations up there, I'm sure a lot of those fish are spilling over downstream into this Section 5 that's causing this increase. He said that the population today, or when they did it last June, was 17.5 kilograms per hectare. And that is about 15 pounds of fish per surface acre. That's what that means. If they put in the catching regulations in there, the same thing is going to happen there that happened up above, and that means that it's going to go from 17 to probably somewhere around 60 within 2 or 3 years. And those fish were free. They didn't cost anybody to feed in the hatchery. They're all wild fish.
So there was somebody over here. Were you going to say something, sir?
First of all, I appreciate what the commission's done and all the resources. Very grateful. The treasure of the wild trout stream. I understand, and I certainly am not going to take issue with people who have lived here all their life and want to take their grandchildren out to catch a fish. I don't know. great, but why not let's release that wild? I fish, I'm a fortunate man. I have a lot of free time. I fished all over the country. I came here from the West in 1986, the first place I came after the movie ban unloaded was White, Pennsylvania, because I knew of Penn Creek. I'd read of Penn Creek. I'd read the old literature of the South. If you've got a body of water that you've identified will support wild fish, and I keep hearing people say native. The brown trout is not native to the United States of America, and the rainbow trout's not native east of the Rocky Mountains. Period. They're all stocked. The rainbows that they're putting in, correct me if I'm wrong, are just mutations of the Cloud River rainbow. They're not red bands. They're not kamloops. They're just something that has been created to put in a trout stream, live a certain amount of time, let the public that paid for them enjoy them, take them out. But for God's sakes, if you've got a stream that will support a wild trout fishery, I think it's better for everybody. I think it's better for the children. I think it's better for future generations. It is a gem. How many wild trout streams do we have in the eastern United States? Do we have a half dozen? We have the Delaware River, the West Branch. We have Penn Creek.
Well, we have 16,000 miles of streams, which includes headwater brook trout streams, down to and including things like the Latort, Spring Creek. Yeah. But in terms of big water, you've got
would roll over and it's great.
Yeah, you've got the Upper Delaware. You've got you don't have too many. You've got the Upper Delaware. You got Big Fishing Creek. You've got Penns Creek. You've got Spring Creek. You've got the East, or you got the Clarion River now. You've got some big water out there, but not a lot of it. And as we said earlier in the presentation, this is a unique situation to have such a wide stream to be able to hold so many fish. One second. There's one gentleman that Chris has pointed out that I think wants a chance.
Yeah, I just have a few questions. In regards to the slot limit regulation, have you guys done any studies on how many trout get killed from people fishing the slot area, using bait, hooking the fish down the throat? And have you guys done any studies? Like, is there such thing as a slot limit with artificial barbless tackle or anything like that?
We are studying Section 3 right now. We did an agri-use and harvest survey in 2013, the year before that went into place, so we have the baseline data. We know how much agri-use and harvest occurred before that regulation change. We're hoping to do another one of those surveys here in 2019 to finalize our evaluation of that regulation.
Yeah, but I mean, if somebody's fishing the slot area and they catch a bigger fish with a mini or whatever they're using, a spin or anything, can hook a fish down the throat and cause mortality, the people aren't documenting that. Like, they can't take them with them because they can get in trouble. So I'm just wondering, like, if it was catch and release, artificial only barbless hooks, there's a lot smaller risk of mortality. But if you put the slot limit into play and you can only keep 7 to 12-inch fish with all tackle, I feel like there's going to be quite a few fish that are killed, not on purpose.
So what we can do is we can compare the size structure. We can look at our survival rates between like a Penns Creek and a Spring Creek or something of that nature. And that gives us a pretty good idea of what's going on in the population and how and whether tackle type might be a limiting factor. Because we're getting limited on time, I'll be happy to talk with you some more after about that.
Okay.
Mr. Humphreys.
I'm gonna kill this program, but it's already determined what the fishing commission is going to do. I think that the Union County Sportsmen Club has saved the Fishing Commission a lot of money over the years. They've stuck Section 5 very well. I started Trout Unlimited in State College. I believe in catch and release. But I also know that Section 5 is a great section to fish, and I enjoy fishing it. I'm not that good a fisherman that I can catch the native fish. But I certainly do enjoy working over a great pod of Union County Sportsmen fish. And I know that the people that fish there don't kill that many. They catch and release, but it's nice for them to catch a fish and walk out with it to eat. Once in a while, I enjoy a trout myself. So the Union County Sportsmen have saved the Fish Commission a lot of money over the years. And because they're stocking the stream and they stock it very well. I don't see stocking Section 5 and their wild trout population, they equal out. I catch, yes, I even catch a wild trout in that section over all of these stock fish. This stocking has been going on since eons of time. How did the brown trout get into Penn Creek? They stocked them. And so I know you have wild trout throughout Penn Creek. And I know that this might be another section that might be a wonderful thing. But I don't see it that way. I see it that we put fish in. I have a lot of fun catching them and releasing them. I think it's a great thing. And I know 2/3 of the people in here feel the way I do. And I might make one more statement. John Arway is the best thing that ever happened to the Pennsylvania Fish Commission. And the second statement is, if everybody in this damn room would write a letter to the Fish Commission and say we need a license increase, that's how we can really save our stream. And if you want stockfish, you'll get them that way. But we need a license increase. And everybody in this room write to your legislator, that's what we need. Thank you.
So we've got a time check here. I've got about 7:50, so that means we have 10 minutes. And since Joe said he was going to kill the meeting, I want to give Charlie a chance to do it. Yeah, but Charlie, there's still other people I think that want to ask some questions. So you're getting your second bite of the apple. Let's make it brief, please. Okay? And we'll be here after.
You'll be here after.
Well, we'll be at the parking lot. We take those kind of things in the parking lot.
Let me tell you the other half of the story. I've been the fish manager for the Sportsman Club for 20 years. In that 20-year period, I stocked 113,000 trout in Section 5 and 6. 113,000. Probably 20%, 30% went up into Section 4 and maybe even into Section 3. I have begged for the report from Jason, Eric, asked for an audience witness. None of them would respond to the promise they made me that I would get this information. I'd like to know why you waited until tonight before you told any of the public of what this is about. Have you told any other group before this? No?
I'm not sure what you're referring to. This is the presentation that we wanted to bring to you, including the options. Nobody else has seen that presentation with all the options.
Oh, with all the options.
Right.
There's a few options there that I've seen. Last year, I put 1,000 fingerlings in Section 5 and Section 6 because in 2016, I was concerned about the predators that have taken fish out of those sections. So I put 1,000 fingerlings in. And you can't tell me the difference between the fingerlings I put in and the fingerlings you say is wild trout. A lot of them fish.
Were they through the cooperative nursery program, those fingerlings?
Through the what?
Were they through the cooperative nursery program, those
No, I
fingerlings?
bought them.
Where'd you buy them?
Same place you get some of at Cedar Springs Hatchery.
We don't buy them at Cedar Springs. So
Well,
you stocked how many fingerlings?
1,000 just last year, but
Just
I've been
last year.
putting some number in every year. I've been
Okay,
stocking.
that's good to know.
20 years.
Just incriminating yourself,
20
buddy.
years I've been stocking.
What an idiot.
Hell of a lot better than
Glad I'm videoing this.
Hey, you're welcome, Eric. We'd like to meet with Jason. Hey, let's watch. Okay, hey.
All right, well.
You don't need to watch.
Okay, Charlie, so I gave you your second bite of the apple. We have, I got 5 minutes left. Somebody hasn't asked a question yet.
Your survey relies, what you say.
Thanks, Charlie. This is a hot product.
You asked to hear from someone.
You're gonna have,
You asked to hear from someone who's a wild trout advocate.
yeah.
I hope at least I can humbly approach the possibility.
Can you come to the middle of the room at least, so you can project your voice a little bit?
Yeah, they tell me mine normally projects. I'm a through guy.
Come on now. You're gonna stand up there and you're gonna talk for 10 minutes. 3 minutes. Say it's about 30 seconds.
3 minutes. Joe knows me a little bit. I'm an advocate for wild trout. There's no question about it. But I think what we really need to look at is the value of wild trout. This is something absolutely special. It's not something that we have a lot of in the broadest scheme of things. And when we have a stream so special as Penns Creek, that we have an incredible, I'm going to say potential on Section 5, because we've seen what that potential can be in Sections 3 and 4. This is something we need to protect. It was asked, what are we expecting to see out of this change in regulations? What we expect to see is an increase in the number of valuable wild trout. That's what we expect to see. One of the things that is very difficult for me is when I hear kids can't fish. That's not true. If we teach our children to respect that part of the resource that we see as a wild trout, that just increases, I believe, their potential for enjoying that recreational experience even more in the future. So I think that's something we need to think about as well. When you think about expanding the amount of water in Penns Creek that's now going to be available for trout fishing in general, I see that as a real positive. Adding another 4+ miles to trout fishing opportunity in Penns Creek, I think is something that we need to consider as really good. And I'll stop with that, Joe.
Thank you. There will be one more, and before I go to that person, I just want to remind you, if you haven't filled out the survey form, please do. I'll remind you that to watch this as it progresses. If it's coming up before the commission, it'll be noticed. It'll be out a news release. Go to our website as this thing progresses. If it progresses, I got it. So I'm going to take this gentleman. He's going to be the last one tonight.
One more.
He's going to be the last one. You got 2 shots. You got 1 shot. He's going to be the last one. But before I let you go, because I'm afraid you're all going to run out the door, thank you very much for coming. Whether we agree, disagree, we need your public comment. As John said, we're here to listen to you. Obviously, we're in front of you tonight. We could be home with our families, but we're here to hear what you have to say. We didn't do this in a vacuum. We're not going to do it in a vacuum. We have 3 options. Think about those 3 options, and we'll be in discussion. This gentleman here with the sweatshirt.
First of all, I never thought that I would agree with the labor. I have 5 grandchildren, 3 of which fish now and 2 will fish later. I want to be able to tell them that I came to this meeting tonight to stand for wild places and wild trout. I want them to
That's right.
because of the proper management system. And since we're talking about something broader than just the fish, it scares the hell out of me when somebody tells me that they're going to manage the fishery based on their observations about predators. Isn't that something that we should let them do? And let them be involved in that? Because that also is an equation for seeing evil and seeing positive. Shouldn't that all be in balance because we let nature run the show and let us stay the hell out of it?
Thank you very much. We want to thank High School for allowing us the venue, and Michelle for for getting us in. Please move promptly out.